So I'm going to break my presentation into three parts, very, very quick one. First is about Monsoon Sim experiential learning platform. And then the second is how do we use Monsoon Sim, how Monsoon Sim use AI to teach experience, business experience, yeah. And thirdly is finding the balance between experience and AI, which is the very topic we're talking today. First is about Monsoon Sim experiential learning platform. It is a platform where the teacher or any teacher can become a facilitator. All you have to do is to configure your business scenarios, and then you allow your learners to learn. And they learn it through games and they learn it through simulation. So it could be a combination of learning and simulation, or competition, or just a workshop. So a number of scenarios you can, it's almost unlimited combination that you can just configure your business case. In a nutshell, Monsoon Sim, it comes with 13 business departments. It has procurement, warehouse, MRP, retail, e-commerce, maintenance and finance services, forecast, HR, etc., etc. And underneath these 13 departments, there's a number of sub configuration that you can define. For example, you can get into intangible asset and taxes, and also what do you call that, data analytics and so on. Okay, but that's not important. I think I just want to share with you the background of our company and why it leads to AI later on our profit, etc., etc. So it all comes with your configuration. So if you want to define it a little bit more, let's say you turn on the loan feature, then the student will learn more, such as the loan amortization, short-term liability, the credit rating, the current ratio, etc., etc. And if you do turn on a lot more, like warehouse and procurement and retail marketing, then they will learn more, such as sales process, account receivable, shipping costs, inventory. Again, it's all up to the teacher. So we're transforming the teacher to become facilitator, right? Anybody can teach this. It's like a little SAP, just put into a game. All right, so that is Monsoon Sim. Now, how do we use Monsoon Sim? How does Monsoon Sim use AI to teach experience? All right, so in Monsoon Sim, we have two things. One is we have robots that can play against human, as well as along with human playing against other human. That's the first part. The second part is the robots actually can teach the student as well as to notify the teacher as to the status of the learning process. Let me give you an example. So we have the rules. So by the way, the AI that we're talking here is rule-based AI. All right, we're not using statistical-based AI. Why? Because there's just simply not enough data, and we are not here to make a super, it's like we're not trying to become the chess player, like the IBM, the chess mind, deep mind, and so on. But we are trying to teach student learning. So our AI is just a rule-based AI. So we have rules and facts, and then the AI will do the teaching to the learners as well as notifying the facilitator. Let's give you an example. If the cash ratio, for example, is more than 1, and the margin is high, and the demand is high, and the fact is that you haven't got any warehouse, so the AI is going to advise the teacher to tell the teacher that this learner should consider renting a warehouse. And at the same time, the AI will tell the student, please consider renting a warehouse. Okay, so this is just one example of how we use AI to teach students. Yeah. All right. So this comes to the third that we're talking today, the topic, right? Finding the balance between experience and AI. I think we really need to look at the type of company and the maturity of the company before we decide whether we go for AI or we go for more AI. I mean, AI, no matter what, is still in infancy stage. I agree with Dr. Sanjay just now. This is truly just the beginning. There's a lot more coming with the discovery of new materials and the neural system and so on. And perhaps, application-specific AI is going to be around the corner. So all this is going to change the game. So we are just at the tip of the iceberg. So AI is still like a baby right now. But be that as it may, I think that we need to talk about the type of company before we decide what's the degree of AI that we can rely on. For example, is this a brainy company or is this a procedural company? Right? People come for the brains, the gray hair, the scientists. There is not much AI can do here. Not much at all. Okay. Maybe on the sales side, maybe on the marketing side, trying to predict some of the marketing, some of the clientele that they can do, that much. So we are still at the infancy. So the degree of AI in a brainy company is very, very limited. However, if you talk about procedural company, then yes, I agree. Then you talk about things like, okay, I'm just going to make cake today. I'm going to just sell. I'm just going to buy and sell. I rely on my system. I rely on the systematic things, things that can be the things I can improve through AI. That the degree of AI in that sort of company is higher for sure. Next is also whether we are talking about service company or product company. At the end of the day, when you talk about service company, you still very much rely on human, because human services and services in itself has a number of variables. We're talking about, is it a high value service such as a doctor, or is it a low level service such as providing massage or providing haircut? So the AI being used in service company itself depends very much on the nature of the service, yeah, and product company, right? Even the product company, there is a number of parameters or variables. For example, is it a configure to product? Is it make to configure? If you're trying to talk about engineering company who is making a truck, then it is very difficult to use AI for that, because you need a lot of thinking, you need a lot of designing, you need a lot of configuration. But if you're just making a chair, then it is very easy to use AI. Okay, so so before we talk about what is a balance, I think we really need to talk about the type of company, yeah, and also B2C, B2B, in it at itself, there's so much variable, right? If you talk about B2, I mean, today, the AI is still very much on the marketing side, yeah? Trying to predict the marketing, trying to predict the sales, trying to predict the customer behavior, or trying to prevent fraud and so on. B2C area, the degree is higher for sure, the usage of AI. When it comes to B2B, it's still very much on the personal relationship. Yeah, you talk about one type of, the relationship between the CEO, the top management to a top management. They strike a deal with this umbrella deal for the long term. So the usage of AI in this case is a lot less. Yeah. For example, our friend Johan Stern is going to join PwC, so he would definitely be on a high value service company. Okay, so the maturity of the company is definitely going to play a fact too, right? Because as the company is new, when you're starting a company, you really need the tacit knowledge of the CEO, right? Because there's no data, there is no basis, there is no statistic to talk about. So in the very beginning of a new company, you're definitely going to rely a lot on the experience of the CEO or CXO. But as your company mature, there are certain parts that is becoming procedural. Even a brainy company will have some components that are procedural. And those procedures can eventually become, you can use AI to help. So the degree of AI usage, it depends very much on the maturity of company. So in summary, I would say that finding the balance of AI and experience depends on many factors. Number two is a tacit knowledge or experience of a CEO is always needed, especially in an early stage of a company, or in a company that runs on brain over procedure. The third thing is that CEO experience is always needed to develop AI algorithm anyway, right? The model. So you still need the experience and the wisdom of the CEO to do that. And number four is, until now, I don't think there is, CEO can be replaced by AI in a number of things. For inspiration, right? Even the recruitment, you cannot replace that. Right? Sales, building relationship, especially in the B2B business environment, you cannot replace that. And for marketing, gray hair, also it still sells for high value services. So that is my take on the whole subject. Thank you.